How's it going, everyone? Welcome to The Hook, and here's your Six Nations preview. So, going from the bottom to the top, I honestly think Italy probably has a real shot at beating France. They have, Conor O'Shea's leading the team. The big difference here is what you've got. It's a really young team. You've got a few dudes scattered around, like Eduardo Gori, who plays for Benetton. He's got 65 caps. And then you've got Tommaso Allen, who's got 33 caps, and Tommaso Benvenuti, who's got 45 caps. But the rest of their back line, most of them have way under 20 caps. There's Carlo Canna has 25, and Eduardo Padovani has 14. But the average below that, if you take them out of the equation, everyone's got around an average of 6 caps. And then let's go into the forward pack. It's, it's a decent size. You got 18 guys up front. So I guess that gives you about a 2-deep roster there. But again, it's really a very, very inexperienced pack. You've got Leonardo Giraldini, who's got 89 caps, plays in France, Stade Toulousain, and Sergio Paris, who's got 129 caps, plays with Stade Francais, and, he's, of course, their captain. However, after those guys, the average is about, for the most part, 8 caps. So you're running into like a revamped Italian side, and Conor O'Shea was able to lead them to a decent Autumn International set. Like you saw significant progress, and we've seen significant progress from the Italian sides in the Guinness Pro 14. And then we've got France, Jacques Brunel, man. I don't understand how he got hired in the first place, because Guy Novus, his resume is there. I guess they just really weren't pleased. But the problems with French rugby were really not the coaching staff, because Guy Novus really had, the resume. What else do you want? Multiple time champion in the top 14, takes teams to the European, deep in the European competition, to the final, all that stuff. Great coach. And, now we've got Jacques Brunel, who had a unsuccessful run as the Italian head coach, and had been really out of coaching since he'd been replaced by Conor O'Shea. But looking at who they bring to bear, it's a pretty good team overall, based on what is available. But how does the coach extract what is in the French system culturally, that whatever it is, I don't know what it is. I want the French to play well in the Six Nations. I want the French to, do great things in rugby, because, I spent 7 months there. I fell in love with the country. But watching the French team, at least the last year and a half, there's something wrong, but it's not the coach. I can't really figure it out. There's something culturally in French rugby, and people are talking about it. Well, yes, because they're bringing in, all these Georgian props through their academy system. They're importing a bunch of 9s and 10s. But, you saw I forget who it was, and I need to look it up. They had this young fly half during the autumn, and he was brilliant for them. So, I think just based on all the controversy and firing of the head coach, and Jacques Brunel not really having much time to scout his own players, he's just taking what he has and going forward. What does that mean? I don't think they're going to play well. I think they'll beat Italy, and that's about it. Although I think Italy has a chance to steal one against them, and maybe even Wales, depending on how Wales just figures it out. So there you go, as far as my predictions with France. And then moving on to the Welsh squad, they're having significant issues at 9, and and fly half and all this like drama with the new rule about what is happening for Wales going forward, needing 60 caps, or you won't be selected if you decide to take a contract overseas, which is totally weird because that means these guys who also played for Wales, but I mean it's gonna be weird for the Americans watching this channel because Wales and Scotland, they're like not USOC countries. They're not. They have their own national teams, but they're not. In that respect, they all fall under Great Britain. So when if 15s ever becomes a sport in the Olympics, there will be a Great Britain team and not a Scotland and Welsh team. But in rugby and in soccer, the Scottish Association and the Scottish Union and the Welsh Association and the Welsh Union are definitely big time powers traditionally that have lots of history. But going into the Wales, man, they had a bunch of guys come back from injury. Their front row was battered when they played both New Zealand and Georgia. Although when they played New Zealand, they played really well. They did not play well against Georgia at all, and I think that had more to do with Georgia. But yes, they had less experienced players, but the depth of Welsh rugby and the depth of English rugby and the depth of Scottish rugby by comparison to a Tier 2 nation is extremely significant. So the way they played against Georgia was very indicative of problems in Wales rather than being a exception to the rule. And based on, I think Gatlin's pretty much done. The biggest topics in the media right now are who's going to replace Gatlin after this World Cup. Yes, he did sign an extension, but who's replacing Gatlin? Who's the next guy? Who's it going to be? So I think that this much chatter, 10 days away from the Six Nations is a significant issue, and it says that there's definite questions about what's going on in Welsh rugby. So, but I really don't think, just based on current form, that they're going to make much noise, which kind of sucks because they're the first team that I sort of fell in love with when it came to the Six Nations. But when it came to Wales, Gatlin plays Gatlin ball, and it's kind of boring. Whereas I thought you saw there was a significant change with how he structured the system during the Lions tour, and which allowed them to draw against the All Blacks. So I really think that they're going to finish in fourth place, and I think they have a significant chance to even lose to France or Italy, one of those two games. Moving on to the top three. This is where it gets real interesting because this is where it's anyone's game. Gregor Townsend, head coach of Scotland, for those, for my American audience, he's been putting together a really good side. For the most part, he's blooded a lot of players, brought in a lot of youth. Although, unlike Italy, you don't have anyone with, 129 caps on here. But there's still a lot of young guys in the backs and the young guys in the forwards. They have a mix of, experienced guys and inexperienced guys. Where it gets really interesting and concerning for them is you're basically on your fourth choice tight head and loose head props based on everything I've read. And there's some interesting things going on at the scrum half position that he has to sort through. But I think that with the way Scottish rugby has performed the last in this campaign right now, in the last 2.5 years, that this is the make it or break it year. Even though they don't really have the team that they probably want, you gotta go, right? This is the year. And then going forward after that, it's are they throwing in the kitchen sink because they need to, right? And I think Scotland has a chance of even taking second place. What I do not think is that they will win, although I have them as a top 3 team, for sure. And then that gets us down to, Ireland and England. And some people think that, this might be the great downfall of England. But even though they're suffering injuries, it's very interesting to see what's going on. I think that Ireland has, a great chance at finishing second, and, if they pull off what they did last year, they can tie, and if they do it right, they might be able to, beat England. And win this darn thing, because, Joe Schmidt, great coach, and the team he has is, even though you've got a lot of younger dudes being brought into the team to make it more competitive, to make it younger, to get their legs faster, they're just really good. Like, they are. And that leads us to, the two top, forwarding teams in this competition is both the, the packs of Ireland and the packs of England, and how those things really revolve around what's going on in the Six Nations. But with that said, I think the depth of English rugby, having 12, premiership teams, and then I think it's 14 in the RFU championship, so roughly 26 to 28 about that. Professional sides gives you a greater depth in English rugby that allows Eddie Jones to continue pushing forward. They've only lost one game. Yes, it was against Ireland, but I believe that Eddie Jones has blood in the water, and he's not going to, let things go forward. People were wondering, so Gary Graham finally gets called into the side. James Haskell originally was named to the Six Nations side, although Eddie Jones had called upon him and said you were out of the squad a while ago. He is serving a suspension, so he's not really available until the latter part of the Six Nations tournament. And then guys are banged up with was it Mako Vunipola? It was Billy Vunipola is not able to go right now. And then we got some, injuries with the front row. However, it's really hard to say. England is just my odds-on favorite to win this thing. They've got dominance in the scrum, and they've definitely got dominance in the second row, because, hell, you've got Joe Launchbury, Maro Toji, then add in Nick Asikwe. It's Courtney Laws. It is what it is, right? I don't see Eddie Jones losing this tournament. They may pull a draw or tie against, draw the tournament with Ireland, but I would not be surprised if they go for a grand slam. And that's Aaron Castro, The Hook, signing off.